Please, can you take care of my mom? I was stunned as I looked down at my husband, who was imploring me without even glancing away. What do you mean by that? I was at a loss for words. Candace, oblivious to my emotional state, was happily playing Pictionary in the garden with her kids. What should I do now? I felt like I was on the edge of despair. My name is Jessie. I'm a 42-year-old stay-at-home mom. My husband Cole is 3 years older than me and works tirelessly as a teacher. He's busy even on weekends with club activities and is rarely home. Still, on his days off, he goes out of his way to spend time with us, so the kids and I love him dearly. We have 2 kids. Our daughter, Dina, is 10 years old. She's inching towards adolescence and rebelliousness, but she's still my cute daughter who sometimes falls asleep holding my hand. Our son, Kenton, is 5 years old. He's an active kid, always running around the local woods, but he's still my adorable son who loves to be held. We've been living with Candace in our in-laws' house for the past 2 years. Around 6 p.m., Candace, who had been preparing dinner with me, calls out to the kids.
Dennis, Alicia, dinner's ready. Yes.
Our children respond, although called by names that aren't theirs.
Laura, come take a seat as well.
I'm also addressed by a different name. Okay, thank you. Candace, who has no awareness of who her family members are.
Let's eat.
And so our family gathers around the dinner table and Candace finishes her meal with a content look on her face.
Oh right, I need to boil some water.
Don't worry, I've got it.
Oh really? How thoughtful of you.
Candace seems content with my words, but as soon as she takes a bite of her meal, she mumbles, I need to boil some water. Don't worry, I've already taken care of it.
Oh really? You're so attentive.
No matter how many times they see this repetitive exchange, the kids don't bat an eye. It's just another day in our home. 2 years ago, Candace, who's living alone, had a nasty fall and broke her femur. A prolonged hospital stay left her mostly immobile. She became more absent-minded than before, probably because she was no longer as active when she lived alone. Each time we visited her in the hospital, we noticed that her conversation was becoming more disjointed. During this time, my husband, Cole, made an impassioned plea.
I want to take Mom in.
It threw us into a panic. We agonized over the decision, but ultimately couldn't bear to abandon gentle Candace. The kids loved her too, so we decided to take her in. At first, the children were confused, but they saw how happy it made Candace when they responded to her, and they accepted the new living arrangement. We all lovingly referred to her as Candy, and lived peacefully together. Then came an unwelcome intruder into our peaceful life. Lillian, Cole's older sister.
How could you let Mom do household chores, Jessie?
Aren't you ashamed as Cole's wife? Lillian, who'd shown her face after 6 months, frowned upon seeing Candace sweeping the floor. But doing chores actually keeps her energetic. Even the doctor recommended it.
Stop making excuses. You're a stay-at-home mom living off Cole's income and Mom's pension. You're like a hyena.
Is she really suffering from dementia? Or did you just say that so you could leech off her?
What are you?
She hardly visits, but acts as if she knows everything.
Mom, I bought you your favorite cake. Let's eat it together.
Thank you, Jilly. Candace is happy to see her daughter, but she'll probably forget about Lillian by tonight. I'm truly fed up with Lillian, who acts all high and mighty just because she brought some snacks. Not only did Cole have an older sister by 5 years, but he also had an older brother, Jack, who was 2 years his senior. That meant Cole was the youngest of 3 siblings, and still, we were the ones to take in Candace. Jack often moved for work, and Lillian, his sister, was married and lived far away. Despite this, their attitude of our younger brother's family who lives nearby should naturally be the ones to take her in always irked me. Cole, on the other hand, was genuinely grateful for the way I had devoted myself to caregiving. On his occasional day off, he'd always take turns with me attending to Candace. And Candace? Well, she'd occasionally make mistakes or wander a bit. She was generally calm. Whenever she gave a heartfelt smile and said, "Thank you," it made everything worthwhile. But my frustration grew when I thought about how Lillian and her kin would just shoot their mouths off without actually lifting a finger to help. Just when I thought this was my life now, everything changed. Cole passed away. He had collapsed at work. By the time we rushed to the hospital, it was already too late. I was so shocked I couldn't even cry. For the next month, between the funeral and taking care of the kids, life was a blur. While seeing my children muster the courage to go back to school, I started thinking it was time to figure out our future. Cole had left us some money, but it wasn't enough to live on indefinitely. More importantly, we were living in Cole's family home, taking care of his mother, Candace. Moreover, her dementia is progressing. Sometimes she understood that her son Cole was gone, but other times she'd forget. Even so, she had her own sense of loss and had many days when she'd cry like a child. Feeling it was wrong to leave Candace, we lived by draining our savings, unable to work. Then, 3 months after Cole's death, Lillian and Jack showed up out of the blue. "How long do you plan on freeloading here?" "What?" Exhausted from caregiving and child-rearing, I was too stunned to reply. Looking down at me, Jack arrogantly began to lecture. "Don't you feel ashamed living off our mother's modest pension?" "I only use Candace's pension for living expenses," I responded. "Sure." Jack snorted dismissively. This coming from a man who hadn't contributed a single cent to his own brother's funeral. Lillian scanned the room as if appraising it, then began directing me. "You're practically a stranger now. Move out. I'll live here with Mom." "What? You're married and live far away. Didn't Mom refuse that arrangement?" "Oh, no worries. My idiot husband cheated, so I thought I'd come back and take care of Mom. My kids are grown up anyway." "What? How selfish can she be?" If Lillian's husband really cheated on her, I'd sympathize with her. But isn't it just too convenient for her to kick us out without even thanking us for forcing us to take care of her? Ignoring my disbelief, Lillian rushed over to Candace, who was sunbathing on the terrace. "Mom would prefer to live with her real daughter over a daughter-in-law who's like a hyena, right?" Candace, lost in the sunlight, gave a vague reply. But Lillian took that as if Candace had agreed with her, forcefully interpreting her answer to suit her. "Look, just pack up and leave, will you?" "Are you serious?" Seeing my pale face, Jack smirks. "Losing your cash cow, huh? Man, if you had been a good provider, maybe my brother would have lived longer. Poor guy." Using my late husband's death to taunt me, how could anyone be so insensitive? He's the worst. Absolutely terrible. But my worn-out body and mind couldn't muster the strength to fight back against these two. That night, as the kids were asleep, I pondered. Honestly, leaving this home would probably make my life easier. I could go back to work if I didn't have to care for Candace. But should I really leave just because Lillian and the others tell me to? Wouldn't that be abandoning Candace? Would my late husband Cole be disappointed? These negative thoughts swirled around in my head. Suddenly, I realized Candace was standing next to me. "Jessie." "Candace, what's up? Need to go to the bathroom?" I was about to stand to assist her, still surprised to be called Jessie after such a long time, but Candace stopped me, taking my hand. "Jessie, leave this home." "What?" I was puzzled by her sudden proposal. Was she choosing Lillian over me because they shared the same blood? As if reading my thoughts, Candace spoke gently. "You're still young. Don't waste your time on an old person like me. But live with Kenton and Dina. Make life easier for them. But what about you, Candace?" "I'll be fine as long as you all are happy." Candace smiled. A lump formed in my throat. "Candace," and tears flowed for the first time since Cole passed away. Candace gently caressed my hand. "Thank you for everything. I'm so grateful for your gentle touch. It's given me so much happiness." "Yes, that's it. I chose to live with her because she is this warm-hearted." I cried like a child while being embraced by the warm chest of Candace. The next morning, Candace greeted me. "Good morning, Laura." She probably didn't remember last night. But I had made up my mind. I will leave this house to protect my children, and not to waste Candace's feelings. I soon found an apartment in the same school district and moved with my kids. I was concerned about Candace, but for now I decided to leave her to Lillian's care. I even found a job opening at my previous workplace. My kids are still adjusting, but I feel we're moving forward bit by bit. However, 2 months after leaving my in-laws' house, I got an unbelievable call from Lillian.
Taking care of mom is tougher than I thought. Come help me.
What?
So listen, mom keeps cooking with rotten veggies and constantly forgets to hang the laundry. Could you please keep an eye on her during the day?
What is she talking about? She accused me of being horrible for having Candace do household chores, but isn't she doing the same? And considering Candace's cognitive decline, she can't possibly manage all the household tasks by herself. Did she take our mom in just to have an extra set of hands around the house? Unbelievable. Why don't you help her with chores yourself, Lillian?
I'm busy too.
Busy? She doesn't have a job and the kids have moved out. I have work. I can't.
Can't you take a little time off? You're family after all.
My employer won't let me take paid leave to take care of someone else.
Isn't it cruel to call your mother-in-law someone else?
You were the one who said I'm now a stranger, remember?
That's...
Lillian hesitated. I decided to hit where it hurts. If you can't manage without asking a total stranger for help, you must be pretty incompetent, Lillian.
What?
If you want a stranger's help, prepare a payment, then I'll consider it.
You're so greedy. I can't believe my brother married you. I'll never ask for your help again.
Fine by me. She hung up angrily. I felt relieved that I finally stood up to her. I'm concerned about Candace, but helping now would just make me a pawn in Lillian's games. She must have some pride. She won't street Candace for a while. In the meantime, I start making some preparations. 3 months later, Lillian called me to a family restaurant. Her hair was a mess, her face pale, and she had a vacant look in her eyes.
You didn't tell me.
What?
You didn't tell me taking care of mom would be this hard. Why didn't you tell me?
Well, you didn't ask. Lillian groaned and went silent. Candace is calm, but she wanders and has accidents. Taking care of her alone must be draining. If it wasn't for Cole and the kids, I couldn't have managed either. Lillian dug into her bag and pulled out a thick envelope, throwing it at me.
Here, take this and help me.
What?
You'll do it for money, won't you?
I was stunned by her audacity as I checked the envelope. Looks like about $50, $100 bills. It must have been hard for her to part with that money, but she clearly doesn't understand the weight of asking for help. So can we consider this an advance payment?
Huh?
If you need me 5 to 6 days a week, that would roughly amount to $35,000 a year.
Huh?
Of course, if I move in, it'll cost more. What do you think? Upon hearing this, Lillian's mouth drops open in shock. She then screams, her face flushed red.
Are you kidding me? How can you ask for so much money when you see someone struggling? Are you heartless? A devil?
I don't mind being called a devil. Asking for help has its costs. I have my own kids to take care of. I don't have the luxury of volunteering.
Ugh.
You get it now. I'm not some stay-at-home mom leeching off my own mom and Cole.
Ugh.
If you're willing to pay $35,000, I'll work. But you might find it cheaper to place her in a facility.
That's not fair to mom.
Oh please, what's so unfair? I can't think of a situation worse than being treated like an intruder. It's safer with professionals than an amateur like you.
But relatives, pension.
So frustrating. So it's about appearances and money. Which is worse? Didn't you get alimony from your husband for his affair?
That's...
Wait, you didn't? Are you a saint, Lillian? Or maybe you're the one who cheated.
Yikes.
Lillian's shoulders jump in what seems like a funny manner. Guess I hit the nail on the head. She's probably been avoiding any talk of a divorce or alimony from her husband, claiming she has to care for her mother. So, the reliable one is Jack, your brother. Why not ask him for help or money? Your own flesh and blood should be far more reliable than an outsider like me, right? Lillian grinds her teeth. Good old loudmouth Jack probably uses his job relocation as an excuse to avoid lending a hand. Discuss what's best for Mom, like the close siblings you are. To avoid causing a scene, I quickly pay the bill and leave. After holding out for a while, it seems Lillian reached her limit. She took Candace and forcefully moved into Jack's home.
Jack's wife and kids, disgusted by the arguments over Candace's care between Lillian and Jack, feared they might get burdened with it too and left the house. That tells you how poorly Jack has been treating his family. Abandoned by his family and at a loss, Jack apparently told Lillian and Candace to leave the house. He said he'd pay for Candace's assisted living facility. About a year ago, Lillian, once full-bodied, had become incredibly thin. She told me, "I've decided to put Mom in a facility." I've been researching for 6 months and immediately suggested the perfect nursing home for Candace. Lillian, like a shell of her former self, was talking incoherently, but I took it as consent and started the admission process. Finally, Candace found her final home, and I could see her too. Now there's no need to worry about both of us collapsing, nor will we be berated by Lillian and Jack. I can talk to Candace freely and peacefully. This is the best way I can give back while raising my own children. Candace gently patted my hand, making me tear up just like she used to. "Something sad happened, huh? Don't worry. I'll protect you, Laura." She doesn't call me by my name, but Candace's hand and voice are still warm. "Thank you, Candy. I'll visit you a lot from now on." When I smiled, Candace also smiled joyfully. Since then, Candace has been peacefully living in the facility I chose for her. I'd heard Candace's family were fishermen, so I selected a quiet facility with a sea view. It's reassuring to see her enjoying a peaceful life, just as my preliminary research suggested. Candace is gentle and charming, so it seems she's popular with both staff and the residents. Whenever I visit, she's surrounded by people and looks happy. Meanwhile, Jack seems to be in a constant divorce mediation, unable to win back his family's hearts. Though free from caring for Candace, Lillian's income is zero, as Candace's pension is used for her facility fees. With no other option, she's working part-time, scolded by a boss 20 years her junior. She's also dodging talks of divorce and will likely face mediation soon. Lillian does visit Candace but avoids meeting me, as it's awkward for her. I feel like my goal of ensuring peace for both Candace and our families has been achieved. Lillian can go live her own life. "Soon you should get married too, Laura." As we were walking by the beach, Candace murmured, "I wonder how old she thinks I am," as I reply, "If I find the right person." "You'll find a man with a gentle mother-in-law, like you, because you're beautiful and kind," Candace assures me. That would be nice. I gently hold Candace's hand. I'd love to marry a man with a gentle mother-in-law like you, Candy. The comforting sound of the waves washing up on the sandy shore resonated in our hearts on that warm spring day by the ocean.